everyone, it's Tony Tonkin here from the Child Protection Party. Glad you could be with us on this Tuesday night to have a conversation about everything that relates to child protection and anything that relates to children and keeping children safe and looking after them. This is really an important conversation. We're having a bit of a different conversation tonight because we've got a dog in the background, I think. So, but that's not referring to Avery either. So just want to start tonight by welcoming. I've got other special guests, but just at the moment, we'd just like to welcome Avery in just a second. But before we do that, we just want to say welcome to CPP TV. Okay, so just want to have a chat to Avery just to start with, talking about some of the things that are happening at CPPT at the moment, because there's some issues in relation to us getting our membership up, and we'd like to have a conversation just initially about that, and then we'll bring Sam in and have a chat to her and what's happening in her part of the world. Hi, Avery.
Yeah. So the issue that we've got is that in South Australia, we've got to collect at least 200 declarations from our members, confirming that they still want the party to remain registered here. I've sent out so far about 210, 220 pre-filled declarations that people can sign electronically. We've had about 48 or 50 have been returned. It's really important that we get the 200, because if we don't get them, we will be deregistered, which would make it difficult for us to contest the next state election. It'd make it difficult to contest the next federal election as well, because in both cases we wouldn't be able to go have candidates above the line.
And I think Avery, we need to hammer that point, that it's really important that we do have. Well, first, it's important to membership because it's really nice to know that we've got a lot of people that care about what we're doing and care about kids and want the best outcome for kids. So that's vitally important. The other thing that's really important is that we're able to have people representing you in Parliament, which is what this party is all about. We can't stress that enough. This is not about Avery and me and Sam and others. This is about representing you in Parliament so that we can get the changes that we need. And to do that, we need your membership. We need your membership, and we need to be able to reference that to the AEC so we can get things happening. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Another point as well is that last year we got an extension because I was having a fight with EXA to enable us to try and persuade them to accept electronic signatures. I eventually won that fight, which is why I'm sending out all these forms right now that people can sign electronically. One of the things that they did to us last year was they said, when they granted the extension, they said that nobody could join. They wouldn't accept any declarations from people who joined after the original date of expiry of the requirement to get those declarations in. We have got until September the 30th for me to deliver those 200 declarations. So if people are watching, this thing right now, or they're watching a day or two or whatever, they can, if they're not a member in South Australia, they can sign up straight away. It'll cost, the membership starts at $12 per year. Sign up straight away. I'll confirm your membership. You've got to be on the electoral roll for us to really benefit, but I'll confirm your membership straight away, send you a declaration straight away, which you can then sign and send straight back.
And the answer I'm just going to ask you about that.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Every year we've got to do this. And
so we
when we get
appreciate
registered in other states, when we get registered in other states, we'll have to do it. And we've got to do it every year for federal registration as well. It's easier for federal registration, though.
Yeah. But it does mean that it's not Avery and I had a conversation today about making this simple. We're trying to work on making it simple for us because we spend 30 to 40 hours just sending these things out to you, I can assure you. And we really want to make it easier for people as best as we can, but we certainly want to make it easier for us. But remember that Avery's been able to have this changed in South Australia, so you just electronically sign the form and send that back to us. So there's no great big deal in terms of the paper, having to have paper, signing it, putting it in an envelope, posting it and sending it back. Don't have to do any of that anymore. Thanks to Avery.
Nope.
He's a legend.
Thank you. Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say there.
I'm sure it was going to be profound.
It was.
Well, most of the things you do say, Avery, are very profound. But we'd like to welcome Samantha on board at the moment. So welcome, Sam. It's good to see you.
Hi.
Hi. So you're in Mount Gambier.
Yeah, I am. So I decided to get involved with the party to give, I suppose, my region and the Limestone Coast a bit of a voice in regards to child protection matters, not only with DCP, but just as a whole for children's services in the community. I really hope that I can give my local community in the Limestone Coast a bit of a voice and hope to get some thoughts from my community up and around the place. And
I think, Sam, I just need to say that I think one of the exciting things about having you on board is that you represent the young person that we need to have in this party, because at the moment, frankly, no disrespect to Avery, but we're old farts, and we need a bit of life and vigor that comes from young people. And young people with lived experiences are really important to us as well. And I know that you've had a partial lived experience around the child protection system. But what is it that you think that you can bring, given that I think you said you lived in the Mount all of your life? And so you're familiar with the community. So what can you tell us about the Mount Gambier community that will get us excited about the Child Protection Party becoming an active member of their community?
Look, I think that since the University of South Australia has had a campus in Mount Gambier, that we've seen a lot more social workers trained to act in a rural and remote manner. And I think there's a special interest here, especially among the campus and people that I've worked alongside, to bring children's issues to the forefront, and that a lot of people wouldn't know that there is such a party that even exists that will put forward those issues at a local and a federal level if we're able to get the numbers to do that. So I can't wait to see some of the responses that I'm going to get from my community. I anticipate that I'll be meeting with someone, hopefully from AC Care, from the local university, and hopefully having some discussions with the lecturers about some contributions that they might like to make to the Child Protection Party. So that's really exciting.
Fabulous. So it is interesting that I think the only remote areas that have social work degrees are Whyalla and Mount Gambier. And you make a good point. It'd be great to connect with other social workers and social work students there in Mount Gambier. And for those people that are in Whyalla, please, we're not left out of this discussion at all. Like Sam, you can get on board and join in the discussion around what's happening in your community as well. But what sort of things do you imagine are of interest to people in the Mount about the types of things that the party is also interested in?
Look, I think that access to health services for children are a little bit limited for us. Regions of the Limestone Coast, for example, 20 minutes from Mount Gambier, we've got Tarpina. Midway between Adelaide and Mount Gambier, we've got Narracourt. And then just those small, in the middle of nowhere towns where there's almost no access to services for children, whether that be health services, social services, children's activities, just services in general for children's wellbeing. We don't have the access the city has to those services to allow children to thrive to their full potential. So I think that's a massive area that my community would love to voice.
What about CAMS? Is there much in the way of mental health for young people in the Mount? Do you know?
There is, but once again, the clinician, I could be wrong, but to my understanding, there's about 4 to 5 clinicians to service. I think our population would be in the millions. So you can imagine how much of that population, I don't know the exact demographic, is made up of children. So 4 to 5 clinicians to service. I'm pretty sure that there isn't a clinic in Naracoorte as it stands, but to service the entire Limestone Coast with that amount of clinicians. And then from what I understand, they take a team around the child approach with psychologists, psychiatrists, and that the professionals they liaise with to support children in that care team are based in Adelaide. So we don't even have the consulting team in Mount Gambier. So we're still relying on other services to support the local services that are in place.
So you don't have much in terms of resident psychologist or resident psychiatrist in your town. They generally come from Adelaide for consultation, or they do consultation over the internet, I guess, to some extent.
It's a lot of telelink from what I understand, and especially to get a specialist service. I've heard from a lot of parents in the disability sector that with the companies that do provide those services, they find it really, really hard to get specialist services for the children that they provide disability services to. So,
So I guess, and also, I mean, I wonder what the education department has to offer up there as well. I don't know if you've got any connections with the education department, just to have a look at what sort of additional services are required for children that are struggling. Have you any idea?
Well, yeah. So in my personal experience, just as a mum, I do have a daughter with some extra needs, and to get her support, we had to engage with additional service providers such as a psychologist, an occupational therapist, and the people that are here to provide those services, their waiting lists again are so extensive that the children have to wait sometimes up to 12 months to be on a waiting list to receive a service. And they say that all referrals are triaged. And I do understand that some children do need some support before others, and there's varying conditions and requirements. But there's someone missing out. There is always someone missing out or waiting an extensive amount of time for a service.
So I guess what would be, Avery, if you'd like to come in and get involved in this conversation, feel free.
Yep.
But I guess that, so I've put you up now as well. I'm glad we didn't catch you while you were picking your nose, buddy. That would have been embarrassing. But I think that there are a number of people within, like Sam really made a really good point, Avery, earlier, and that was that, like who knows who CPP is. Number one, that's a problem.
When we were talking to her earlier today, yes.
Yeah. And so how do we through someone like Sam become a little bit more predominant, I guess? And it wouldn't take much of an effort for, I'll have to convince my wife about this, but to travel up to the Mount, that 4-hour drive, whatever it is, to get there to talk to groups of people about what the party is doing. We can have conversations about the foundation as well, and what sort of work we're doing in relation to advocating for parents. So I think that I'd just like to put that message out there, I guess, Sam, to people that if you're living around the Mount and live at other places that just are nearby, I think Kingston. I don't know how far away that is from the Mount. How far is that?
That's about roughly about 2.5 hours, and you just find a lot of these coastal towns that are around the place. Admittedly, they do pride themselves on being small coastal towns, and they would like to keep themselves that way. But the service provision in that area is the same as, I'm veering off to the wrong side of the screen. Pretty much they're facing the same challenges as us here in Mount Gambier. And I would have thought, and I don't think that I'm the first person to raise this, that children's services in Mount Gambier, they shouldn't be as hard as they are to obtain, because we are the second biggest city in South Australia. We're second to Adelaide. So I would have thought that there'd be a little bit more delegation of services to such a large area.
Yes, and I called this session "Connecting with Communities" because, most of the people that seem to connect with us are city-bound people, and not necessarily. I know we've got Wendy. I think I noticed Wendy Hawkins was online just a minute ago.
Yeah.
So hi, Wendy. It's good to see you there. And Wendy is someone who lives or was living in a country town in Victoria. And, Victorians doing their own thing at the moment, trying to isolate themselves from the rest of the nation as best as they can, reluctantly, nevertheless. But there are a lot of country towns out there that need the appropriate representation and need to have a voice. And I guess what we're asking though, Sam, and why you're here, is to be able to present a voice for your town. But I want people to keep in mind that we need other people similar to you
Exactly. Yeah,
presenting their
we
voice
do.
in their town. Yeah.
Even closer towns that are just over the border, say Dartmoor, which is just over or just under 40 k's over the border. Nelson, Portland, those outer coastal towns of Victoria. I don't really know much about what services are available to them, but I have had some comments, particularly from co-workers, social workers, and just the local community in general with the role that I have, that no matter where you go, that if you live in a regional town, that if you need any specialist services for a child, whether that be psychological, social work, even just a general pediatrician, that your wait list is probably about 3 times higher if you're in a regional location. I think it has somewhat improved to what it was, but the issue really does affect all states and territories, that the regional locations, the access just isn't there. So I hope that other people in seeing this do come forward and see that there are people that are trying to give people from regional and remote locations a voice, and that would invite people to step up and have their say about what services they think need to be better represented for children in their community, and ideas for change that are very specific and things that we can maybe put into place and advocate for.
Yeah, and when we were having this discussion earlier today, we were actually saying that it would be helpful if we sat down with people in these communities and just listened to what they had to say. So it isn't, and we can do that remotely now. But if there's anybody out there in any of these communities, particularly I guess at the moment the Mountain, Millicent, and other places nearby, who would like to contact Sam and talk to her about things that you think are important in relation to kids, and you'd like us to have a conversation with you, then we're more than happy to do that. And we can do that through you, Sam.
Yeah. I've just seen a comment, something about Yarra Valley. I'm not really sure where that is, but...
That's in Victoria. I think that's Wendy Hawkins said that. She might have been answering the question about where she did live in Victoria. I think it was Mildura that she lived. Wendy also asked the question, what about disability support and service for children? Is the NDIS active in this area? Wendy might have been asking about about Mount Gambier area, or because when I saw that comment, I asked the question, do you mean down in Mount Gambier? And then the reply, something comes back from Wendy saying Yarra Valley. So she might be saying, is the NDIS service, isn't that available in the Yarra Valley area? I don't know.
Comment, for what I know in Mount Gambier, and I do know that the NDIS is active here, but to get access to the NDIS services, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because you have to meet the eligibility requirement, which means that you have to produce documentation to substantiate that your disability is lifelong. But you do need access to support services. So to get those assessments completed for children, and especially for children in from a low socioeconomic background, how are the parents in the first instance supposed to facilitate such assessments when they're not given the support to begin with? It really is that you've got to spend the money and invest the money to get a government service that is free. So that's, I suppose, the issue that I have with the NDIS in those regional communities, such as Mount Gambier, is that you have to spend the money travelling to the city to get these specialist assessments, to get these private specialists on board if you do want to try and skip any sort of the queue. And even then, it's still a waiting game. And you could be waiting, goodness me, about 6 months to get to the top of the list still. And that's a child going without service for 6 months.
And I guess that's our whole point too, Sam, is that if there's anybody out there that's discovering problems or they have issues accessing services and they want us to at least consider, so there's some policy development stuff we could be doing here around remote areas or country areas. And so we need to have that conversation with you. So if there are people in Mount Gambier, for example, that are having issues around this, then contact Sam. Have a conversation with her. So, Sam, I don't know if you want to just pop your email or your so you should have a child protection email by now.
I haven't got that as of yet.
Not yet. That'll be tomorrow.
Well, okay, you'll have that at some time. But even if you wanted to pop in your mobile number, or if some people want to contact Avery or myself, we'll give you a number. But I guess we need to have those conversations with people now about the things that you're talking about that are ostensibly issues that need to be advocated for.
Well, I just invite people if they would like. I'm seriously considering conducting some focus groups, some community forums, and just some general Q&A type sessions to get people's views in the local community so that we are actually representing what these local and regional communities want so that we can advocate according to their wishes, and that we're about advocating for the needs of children and not about ourselves, as you said before. So we collect those views and present them, and that's where we form our data and our focus. Yeah,
that's the whole point. The whole point is that, you know, politicians will get out into the community and tell you what they think you need.
Yeah.
And often they're wrong. But our goal as a political party is just to listen to you. We have certain views about certain things, and we have policies that identify, I guess, what some of those views are. But those policies are far from developed right now. I mean, we've got a long way to go before we completely develop and set up. And there's lots of people in your community who would like the opportunity to be heard, firstly, and to have the opportunity to develop policies for a political party that are going to be significant for the community. You know, lots of people.
I just saw a comment from Linda Burns. I think every area is lacking on something that that is a must. These are our children. We need to be able to access these things they're needing. So nothing is missed. They have the very best potential to start to become the beautiful adults they're meant to become. And I just, as a mum and as the reason that I decided to engage with the party, I can just wholeheartedly reach out and say, absolutely. The foundation for I don't want to use the word well functioning, because what is well functioning? There can be so many different interpretations of that, but I suppose to help children reach their best potential as young adults and as community members, if we don't support them now, then it's going to be even harder for them to support themselves and support others around them as they get older. So really, it's a bigger issue. If we don't step in now, then who's going to step in later?
Yeah, and that's extremely well said, Sam. This is all about early intervention, is it not? We know from research that if we can get to these kids early enough and to provide whatever services we need for them, whether it be through NDIS, better education programs, more SSOs, whatever it might be, you know, to help kids deal with their learning difficulties, to help people deal with just poverty, which is the biggest problem we have of all. So if we can find ways to assist them and listen to your problem and then transpose that into a policy that we can take to Parliament when we have representation, then, you know, we're doing the job that we need to do for you, I guess.
Yep.
There's one more comment on there as well. Where is it? Oh, here
While
we go.
Oh, I was just saying, while you're looking for it there, you
Yes.
said something about a 6-month wait to see a specialist. Wendy replied, and she said that right now she's living in the Yarra Valley. She was asking, was NDIS available in Mount Gambier? But she also said that she lived in Mildura. To get into the local child psychologist was a 12 to 18-month wait. No local GPs would take on new patients at all, and they didn't see a doctor for the whole of the 18 months that they lived there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about that's concerning. What concerns me, looking at the bigger picture of that, but for that particular child, is what's happened for that child in that 18 months and what struggle have they gone through in that 18 months that have worsened or developed condition. It's really hard to comment without knowing the specific circumstances, and that's completely fine. But in a generalist way, like, how can they fathom that, and how is that meeting the Hippocratic Oath? I suppose that's my take on it, is to do no harm. How can you do no harm if you won't see a patient? Isn't that doing harm in and of itself if you're refusing to treat?
Yeah, it is. But then it's government policies that drive all of this stuff, though. You see, so if we can get a big enough groundswell of people who are objecting to the way that they're disadvantaged just because they live in country areas or remote, then and that we are the only party prepared to listen to them in relation to the services provided for the kids, then we need you. We need you to become a member of this party, and we need you to become active in terms of helping us to make decisions that are going to benefit you at the end of the day. So, I mean, this is a fabulous conversation to have, Sam, and I really appreciate your contribution to this, because unless young people like you get involved, unless people in the community get involved, then you can't, folks. You can't sit back and expect other people to do the work for you. We're gonna do what we can. We do these feeds. We have conversations with you. We invite people like Sam on to have that conversation with us, and we value what people like Sam have to say, and we just wish that there'd be more of you that would care to join us to participate in these conversations as well. This party, actually, believe it or not, is all about you. We did a live feed last week, which was CPP is you, because it is. We are not like other political parties where we're interested in power and authority and, all that sort of crap. We're interested. We are genuinely, I can't put it enough, do a lie detector test to prove it, but we are about making sure that kids have the best possible outcomes. I cannot think of another party that specifically focuses on that area. And in fact, I've said this many, many times, that we should have hundreds of thousands of people flocking to join our party because of what we stand for. And that alone should be enough to motivate people to join us, so that their kids have the best possible outcomes that they can have. I'm assuming you guys agree with me on all of that.
Yeah, I do agree. That brings up takes us back to the title of the of this live feed. You connecting with the community or something like that. You called it
Connecting with community. Yep.
It's how do we do that? When we were talking with Samantha earlier today, she said she stumbled across it across the park, and it shouldn't have been stumbled at all. It should have been somewhere emblazoned where anybody can see it, and not found by accident. So we obviously need to do a damn sight more to get our name out there, and clearly Facebook isn't sufficient. The website isn't sufficient. We've got to fresh young faces in the party instead of two old farts like you and me. Tony, I'm talking to, not you, Samantha.
I'm not 30 yet. Once I get to 30, then we can start making those sorts of comments.
Okay, all right. I'm going to mark that in my diary.
We'll always be much older than you, either way.
Yeah, we will.
But Avery's but the point is that we need to, this is like having a private conversation to everybody else. But it's about us getting out into the community with people like you. At the end of the day, That's what it's about. And there are lots of other people just like you out there. And, I'm glad we found you, Sam, and I hope that you within your community can find a whole host of others. And I'm hoping that other people in other communities can watch this video and say, and ask themselves the question, what can I do to make a difference for my kids? Whatever are the issues, what can I do? If there aren't enough NDIS services in and around that area, so it's one thing having NDIS, it's having people that can provide the services required. That's the issue. So, everybody can have NDIS to some extent, I guess, if you've got a long-term disability. But are the services available that you need? Let us know. If they're not, we'll develop policies, have discussions with other politicians about it, and see that we can resolve that problem. We'll make a big deal of it. So get involved with Sam if you're in the Mount, and get in contact with us. If you want to have a conversation about your community, contact us, and we'll make sure that we do one of these live feeds for you as we're doing here with Sam.
And I think that the way that we do this, we get on a live feed, we sit here, we're not trying to sort of put on some professional high and mighty front. We're just sitting here having a rational conversation as adults about what we think the issues are, and that transparency, I hope, would show with the way that we're coming out and speaking. We're not using jargon. We're not talking in depth about research. We're just having a genuine discussion and inviting everyone in to join that. So I hope that would show the transparency of the party, and that we are what we are, and that we are what we say we are. We're nothing different. And I just wanted to quickly address the comment by, where is she? By Chris Giardeas. Politicians are very creative at using focus groups to collect evidence to support their arguments. I just wanted to say that I don't have an argument as to say, and that any data that I did collect would be used purely for the purpose of advocating for services, and that there is no sway either way for me. That my intent in that is to hopefully provide a rationale to the people that can make changes, to make those changes, and to have a why behind what I'm saying, and saying, look, for example, children need more SSO support and hours in school because the parents aren't satisfied. These are the outcomes for children. Here's the data to support that. Please make a change. And hopefully, as these things occur continuously over time and changes do become implemented, that transparency will show as we go, would be the hope.
I'd add to that, because Chris Georgiadis also, at the end of it, she said they collect evidence to support their arguments for already established agendas. The Child Protection Party's got an agenda. That established agenda that we've got is to provide the best possible outcomes for all of Australia's children in all areas that affect children. So if they're involved in if the Department of Child Protection is involved in their life, we want to sort that out. We want to make sure that they get the best possible education, the best possible health service, physical and mental health. So yeah, we've got an agenda, and we want focus groups to help us support that agenda. That we, provide the evidence, as you were just saying there, Samantha, to back up that agenda.
Yeah, we're certainly, we're the last ones to say we haven't got an agenda, Avery.
Yeah.
But I think the point is that we're obvious.
I'm saying we have got an agenda.
Yeah, I know. That's
what I said. We have got an agenda.
We have. That's right. We're not going to say we don't have one. We have an agenda, and our agenda is, as Avery just described it, to make sure that the outcomes for kids in this country is improved, not made worse because kids simply don't have a voice. And I can never understand this, Sam. Why in a society such as ours, that people don't recognise the fact that, number one, they were kids themselves once, and we know what it was like growing up with kids, sometimes with dysfunctional parents, and sometimes where alcohol and drug abuse and all that sort of stuff was going on. And and what was it like for us as kids? I can't understand why we forget that. And how great would it have been to have had someone to advocate for us when we were struggling, and to know what was happening for us. Now, seriously, not all people, but a lot of people have those experiences. Now, why wouldn't you think, okay, I would have liked to have had Southern Africa. Now I've got a political party that's actually prepared to do that. It's actually prepared to fight for my kids. You know.
You said something earlier which prompted a thought in my head, and I thought, should I say it? And I go where angels fear to tread. I do not understand why in an election the Animal Justice Party gets more votes than the Child Protection Party. I am all for protecting animals, and as I said to Samantha earlier today, stopping chickens being kept, where they've got 10,000 chickens in a shed. I completely support stopping that, but I do not understand why people would rather give their vote to protect an animal rather than protect Australia's children when they've got a choice between the two.
Well, is that because I don't know. I mean, we all love animals. I'm an animal lover myself. Glad to know we got rid of our cat though, because it kept on shitting in my office. But apart from that, I mean, most of us love animals, and most of us don't want to see animals hurt or harmed in any way.
Yeah.
But it seems to be okay so we can be emotional about animals. And this is, I think, what you're saying, Avery. But are we just as equally emotional about the well-being of kids? Seriously. We do.
It appears not. At times, it appears absolutely not. It's when the Chloe Valentines happen or the Ebony Napier Tuckers happen that people suddenly take notice. I'll admit, I was one of them. I never thought about child protection until I learned about Ebony Napier Tucker.
Yeah.
Huh? I'll tell you that story if you don't know it.
But we'll tell that story later. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. So right at this moment, as we speak, 25% of kids are living in a violent household. As we speak. So are we not concerned about those kids? Would we be concerned about an animal if it was being beaten every day and not fed? You damn tootin' we would be. Are we just as concerned about children? We should be. Are we concerned about the kid that goes to school every day and gets beaten up by a bunch of bullies, and a school that's not prepared to be able to deal with that issue? I went to a school not long ago, frankly, where they were afraid to deal with the family of this child that was bullying because they were seen as thugs. So these people were fearful for their own lives if they stood up for this kid who was being horrifically bullied. So at what point do we say, like, quite frankly, at what point do we say enough is enough? I said years ago, Sam, enough was enough when I was being bullied by the Department of Child Protection. And I made a stand and said, at that point, I'm not going to be bullied anymore by them, and I haven't been. And as a result of that, the party and the foundation and stuff happens. So how many of you out there are frustrated because you are not receiving the service that you require, or people are not listening to you about what's happening for your kids? How many of you?
I do remember, I remember a statement that I've heard you say, Tony, about that families are the experts in their own lives, and I feel like that needs to actually be put into practice, because I do see that a lot of children and even just families and people in general have better outcomes when they are the agents that facilitate change in their own lives, whether that be as part of the child protection type proceedings, through therapy supports, through NDIS, that when they have the voice and they're supported to have that voice, that they are the best agents for change, and having advocacy in those matters and supports of parties like the child protection parties are going to be crucial in supporting the development of that.
Spoken like a fabulous social worker.
I'm not a social worker.
I know you're not, but I would expect that's the sort of thing a social worker would say, because that's true. That is. I mean, I work with students all the time. I've got a couple of students working with me now, and I would expect them to say what you just said, because people are the experts in their lives. But you can't be an empowered expert unless someone in authority is listening to you. And the problem that we have with the Department of Child Protection, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, is the fact that they don't listen. They don't listen or understand what's happening for clients, and don't provide the space for the client to be able to talk about what this situation, what happened. Look, they don't even talk about what it means to have a child removed. You know, and they're not. I had someone just today do that, and here we go. This is when I start. But the department just acknowledges, yep, we understand that. We've removed your kid. It's upsetting. Bugger off. But they don't understand they really don't demonstrate the emotional trauma that causes families. And you know, and it's not just the child protection system that needs to be ordered and changed.
No.
It's all systems that deal with kids. Because whichever way you look at it, at the end of the day, kids don't matter. They don't. It's adults that make decisions for adults. It's adults deciding that things like having employment, having the best possible job. You know, if you're CEO, the power and authority that you have there, that's making heaps and heaps of money is a really great idea. Producing widgets that do or don't work is important. All this sort of stuff is important. At the bottom is the kids, you know, and those kids that have the best opportunity in life are those kids that go to the best schools. But why don't we have the best schools? Why don't in Mount Gambier you have the best possible school? Why don't the schools in Mount Gambier, any of the schools in Mount Gambier, be as good as St Peter's College or Prince Alfred College or Trinity or any of the other colleges around town? Why is that? Why is it that you have to have money in order to be successful? Why can't you know? I could go on.
When you're from those low socioeconomic backgrounds, you're at an automatic disadvantage because that support from social services, we're going now through Centrelink, Medicare, and affording those gap fees to best support your children, just in general to support their well-being. The support just isn't there. The gaps are too much. And if the New Start rate, this is probably, I'm going off on a little bit of a rabbit trail here, but if that New Start rate is dropped back, we're going to see more children in poverty and not being able to access those services, which could lead to more Department of Child Protection intervention, and parents will be seen as not being able to provide for their children, but really it's a social policy issue.
Yeah, it's a social issue. Why not have the basic income test? We should, and we believe in this as a party. So join with us, folks, because this is important. A basic income. So universal basic income, so that everybody gets paid the correct amount. Years ago, they did some research on this, and they found that there were a group of people who just don't want to work, right? Let's face it, those people are out there. There's a group of people that do, though. And those people that do want to work are far more productive than those people who don't want to work but are working. So we should decide who doesn't want to work. Fine, you get an income. But those people who really want to work for their own self-esteem and because they can earn more money, they're the ones that we should foster them also as well. But basically, everybody should get the same income. And at the end of the day, the cost, just think of this, the costs that would occur because physical health, mental health, drug and alcohol use, domestic violence, all these things are dependent upon the income that people have, actually. So, the more frustrations and anxieties we have in our lives, the more dysfunctional we tend to become. So get rid of that stuff. Think of the savings. We would save what it would cost us for universal basic income. We would save just in decreased costs of physical, mental health, domestic violence services, and so
administration as well.
We'd save billions.
If the government introduced a universal basic income and replaced everything else like disability support or New Start, and everybody got that same basic income, you don't have all these agencies competing for different money. You don't have the people that are you don't need to have the people going through examining this. Do you qualify for this? Do you qualify for this?
It's just a given. You're right. What we would save in terms of administration costs would be outstanding.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to James worked a thing like this out for his university course, I'm going to have to see if I can get a copy of the work that he did, because he had this spreadsheet. You just plug in the numbers, and it would tell you what the cost would be for the for the population of the country, and what the savings would be on the current costs that they have through administering all of these different services, all of these different payments that they have.
But I guess this is our point, though, isn't it? The point is that no one is interested in any of this stuff.
No.
And here we are, this minor political party with, a few thousand members and a Facebook page and a web page, doing our best to, get the message across. But this is about you. You think about this for a moment, folks. If you had the basic universal basic income, which would be a couple of $100 more than what you're getting right now, I can assure you, and that you had all the services and everything that you needed taken cared of, and that you had, if you had kids with disability or kid with learning disabilities, whatever, those services were provided for you. See, none of this happens right now. But as a political party, with members in Parliament and people like Sam, who are young enough to work towards becoming politicians themselves, advocating for you and putting these things in place, we will make a difference.
And I suppose that's the role that I hope to play, is helping to skill build with Tony and Avery to get me to a point where I feel comfortable and confident enough to address members of Parliament, to get things out in the public arena, and to be able to actually take individual views on board and categorize them and say, look, we've got an age demographic here of people who want representation about these child advocacy issues, and the statistics are there. These are what the people want. And if other political parties are saying, look, we want to represent what people and what families want, we're families for families, I hear these statements made all over the media. So if that is the truth, then let's act on it, and let's hold people accountable to act and do what they say that they were going to do.
And I think the other thing too, which is sort of a byproduct of all of this, though, Sam, is that when people start to realise that CPP is a party that is serious about what it is we're doing, and we start getting the representation that we need, other people start to take notice, because their votes are moving to us. And so that means that over time, those people start to think, hello, maybe they've got something to offer here because it's attractive enough. And what we as a party, and I'll just finish on this note, what we as a party struggle with is, are we unattractive? I know Avery and I are unattractive, but that's beside the point. But are we unattractive in terms of what we're offering? Well, we don't believe so, or otherwise we wouldn't be here. Neither would we have even the membership that we do have. So, Avery, have you got any final thoughts on this fabulous discussion?
Not on the parts that you and Samantha have been talking about. I'd just like to reiterate 200 declarations. We've just hit 50. A couple have come in while I was talking, while we were talking there. 200 declarations. You can join now.
Yep.
We did have somebody, Marinda Forster, joined. She has increased our numbers in Queensland. It would be really good to have a bunch of people who live in South Australia sign up today, tomorrow, and I can then send them their declarations of support for the Child Protection Party as well. We need those 200 as soon as possible.
And we did say, Avery, that we could, that, like if you've got a friend, like if you've got a partner,
yeah,
and your partner's not a member, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
If you've got a next door neighbour or a friend or a mate or somebody else that's not a member, why not?
If you've got an adult child,
why not? An adult child.
Yeah.
So when in your circle, okay, right, guys, those of you that are listening, the poultry number that are there, if you get 10 people in South Australia to join in the next week, Avery will send you a love heart. So
I'll rob the bank account. I'll rob our bank account and send them a box of chocolates, I think.
Okay. Well, careful. You might be surprised how many that might really destroy our bank account.
Well, it'd be a virtual box of chocolates.
Virtual. Well, they're the best. They're the non-fattening sort of chocolates.
You're the best sort.
Yeah. So, just get other people involved. Speak to as many people as you can. Sounds like a friggin' marketing program, doesn't it? It sounds like, sounds like Amway or something,
The steak knives will be next.
Yeah. But, there's something more important than what Amway or any other vertical marketing program would offer, because we're out to help kids. So I just want to finally say, thanks, Sam, for being with us tonight. I know we're going to see a lot more of you over time. And anyone in Mount Gambier, contact Sam and talk to her about any of the programs that you would like to see implemented, or let her at least know what is not happening there that you would like to happen, so that we can get our act together and make sure that we advocate for you. Thanks, Sam, very much. Thank Avery very much as well. And,
Thank you.
And we'll go out with this.
If Samantha, hang on, don't go.
No, I'm not. We're still here, Avery.
I'm just saying, just asking Samantha just to hang on, because we always have a little bit of a debrief when we've finished.
Yeah. Don't
sounds good.
disappear.
Yeah, I wasn't going to exit until someone was like, right, please exit now.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being part of it. Really enjoyed it. And thanks for all those people that have contributed online. Really appreciate that as well.